Reflections on the recording of Tarzan of the Apes. Before I begin, let me stipulate that I cry at movies. I'm also irretrievably sentimental. Now that you know exactly where I'm coming from, you should know that I cannot defend the racism, sexism, caricature and stereotype, and the inherent white supremacy found within the covers of this book. Tarzan of the Apes was written over a century ago, and cannot have been other than a product of its time. This was 1912, after all. As a narrator or reader, I have no choice but to portray the characters as they were written by Edgar Rice Burroughs. My only choice was either to narrate the book or not to narrate it. Clearly, I chose the former option. The only question is why, and the answer to that question takes me down the path of childhood memory. I remember my father reading to me a few chapters of Tarzan at a time back in the 1960s, just before putting me to bed each night. It was a melodrama I looked forward to, long before I even knew what melodrama was, or racism, or sexism, or stereotypes. I'm not sure I was aware at the time that reading Tarzan at bedtime was a sort of family tradition. My father later told me that his father read the Tarzan books to him at bedtime when he was a child in the 1930s. For some reason, my wife's son enjoyed the same stories when I read them to him in the first decade of the 21st century. As had my father, I got well into the series, from Tarzan of the Apes through The Return of Tarzan, The Beasts of Tarzan, The Son of Tarzan, and beyond. Tarzan, as I had come to learn, was the most recognized, if not best beloved, fictional character in literature, if you can call a series of pulp novels literature. My father told me that his school teachers refused to allow him to do a book report on any Tarzan novel. Not literary enough, I suppose. And no, Tarzan's son was not called Boy, and far from speaking in broken English, Tarzan was highly intelligent, and mastered not only the language of the great apes, but French, his first spoken language, English, which he taught himself to read before ever speaking it, Finnish, Dutch, German, Swahili, many Bantu dialects, and Arabic, among others. What have I learned from Tarzan? First, although a product of his time, Tarzan seems to rise above and even criticize, perceptively, the tropes and cultural myths of his day, and ours. Second, he was in many respects an amazing adult male role model. He values learning, reason, justice. He is a disparager of royalty, an appreciator of culture and history, and knows no God. And he takes a dim view of the strong preying on the weak. All that would be just like me. And most of the villains in the Tarzan novels are white people. Tarzan loves one woman, the first white woman he ever saw, who hails from my hometown of Baltimore, as it happens, although she retains a Civil War-era affection for the Old South. I have to remember that the first novel spans 1888 to 1909, and the Civil War was a living memory to many of the characters. But I digress. Tarzan is steadfastly faithful to Jane Porter, in spite of many temptations, two of whom figure in the second novel, The Return of Tarzan. What's not to like and emulate about a faithful man? In spite of its pulp novel origins, in spite of its political incorrectness, I have a fond and everlasting affection for Tarzan and the series of books in which he is a character. Tarzan, to me, as the successor of Mowgli of Rudyard Kipling and the precursor to Superman of the DC Comics world, is timeless and ageless. And in reading this first in the series, at several points, I had to stop and collect myself. I told you I cry at movies. What's next? I plan on recording the first sequel, The Return of Tarzan. After that, who knows? I don't know who will care to listen to my recording of Tarzan of the Apes. It has been done before by any number of other narrators, some even more talented than me. I can justify it only on two grounds. It is a labor of love and a legacy of that love, and perhaps this reading will carry on the family tradition long after I am no longer capable of reading. I hope you enjoyed my interpretation of Tarzan of the Apes by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Ronald Bruce Meyer, January 2020.